Our third presenter is Philip Tirone. Philip is the president of the 7 Steps to a 720 Credit Score and the Mortgage Equity Group.
Great to be here. So in 2002, in the year 2000, right before the tech bubble busted, a lady came to me for a home loan, and she said, I said, what type of work do you do? She said, In 2000, a man came to me and said, I'm a day trader. I'm like, oh, you're a day trader, great. How long have you been doing this? About 6 months. And I said, what were you doing before that? He said, termite inspector. I said, okay. Fast forward 6 years. Lady came to me. I said, what type of work do you do? She said, I'm a real estate investor. And I said, how long have you been doing that? 6 months. Have you bought a deal yet? This is my first deal. I said, what were you doing before that? She said, an executive assistant. And I started seeing this pattern. I was like, okay, interesting. So here we are. We've just gone through this unbelievable, painful experience for all of us. So Bruce asked me to speak, and I asked him, what would you like me to speak on? And he said, give us solutions from a residential lending background. Like, what are solutions today for buyers, sellers, and investors that you can go and implement on Monday? So that's what I did. I just sort of this is what I'm experiencing in the world of residential lending right now. So I'm going to start with the top 3 lending strategies for buyers. And the truth of the matter is, some of these are going to apply for a lot of you. Some of them may apply for your family or friends, but let's just start. Top 3 lending strategies for buyers. Believe it or not, I'm still getting asked the question if there's stated income loans. People are coming to me asking me, well, do I need to document with my tax returns? And I'm like, yes. Now, although there are very few stated income loan products, they're still out there. What we're seeing what we're seeing happen more and more is when individuals coming to us, self-employed or individuals that have tax returns or have W-2 income, but write off a lot of their unreimbursed expenses, and they're right on the edge of qualifying. We're actually seeing people for the first time amend their tax returns, refile, pay the government more money in taxes so that they can actually buy this home. I think that's very interesting. So for your buyers, or for those of you who are buying or right on the edge and you can't qualify for income, that may be a strategy. Banks are very, very aggressively going after co-borrowers and co-signers, where in the past that wasn't always the case. In the past, they would ask you, okay, if you have a co-signer, it's going to give you a little bit of higher interest rate. It's not the case anymore. Banks are allowing non-occupant co-borrowers, so borrowers that don't live in the property, to qualify for the home, and in turn, they're going to give that person an owner-occupied rate. Last thing for buyers, we've heard people talk about the buy and bail, where someone has a home worth $400,000, and they're in their neighborhood, they can buy their same home for $250,000. So they want to buy this home with their good credit and let the other property go into foreclosure. So just to let you know, Fannie and Freddie have caught on to that, and as of August 1st, if you want to buy a home in the same neighborhood, they have different guidelines. One, it has to make sense why you're moving. Are you getting an extra bedroom because your family grew or whatever? If you have less than 30% equity, here's how you have to qualify. You have to, you can't take any rental income for the previous home. You need to hit the borrower or count both properties, PITI, to qualify, and have 6-month reserves. So basically, not many people are going to be able to do that, okay? Let's talk about the top 3 lending strategies for investors. Okay, number 1, I have clients and investors come to me all the time. They buy a property for cash, and they say, I want to get a refinance out. I want to do a cash-out refinance. So if that's the case, if you're looking for the best financing after you've just purchased a property for cash, it's very important that you do that loan within 60 days. Because if not, according to the banks, the guidelines change, and you're going to pay a little bit higher in rate. Second lending strategy for investors would be if you're buying in an LLC and you want to get a loan on that afterwards, make sure it's a single-member LLC. You're going to get a better rate, better program. Last lending strategy for investors. We hear over and over about the number of maximum finance properties. Freddie has 4 maximum finance properties, and Fannie's following. They haven't implemented that guideline yet, but we're expecting that to happen. However, there are many portfolio lenders that are still giving unlimited number of properties to investors at 30% down on 5-year fixed rate loans. So for you investors out there, don't get caught up in the Fannie and Freddie guidelines where you can max them out as 4. That is not the case. We're doing it all the time right now with portfolio lenders. Top 3 lending strategies for sellers. So if you have a property that you want to sell, so say for instance you have a property that's selling, you want to sell, it's on the market for $200,000 and it's not selling. A natural inclination, which I see often, is people drop the price to stimulate activity. Well, I challenge you to think a little differently. What if, as opposed to dropping that price $5,000, $10,000, you actually bought down the buyer's interest rate? Okay, I want to think about this, for example. If you spent, on a $200,000 property, if you spent $7,000 or $8,000 and dropped that person's interest rate by 1%, you would, in essence, lower that person's payment, that buyer who's buying your property, by 15%. Okay? It's a unique way to think about how to stimulate a property you're trying to sell. Another option for strategies for sellers. If you have someone's coming and you have a great buyer, but they just don't have the down payment or something that's just needs to get them over the edge for qualifying, we are able you're able to get gifts for down payments. Now, FHA's allows 100% gift for a down payment. Fannie and Freddie, you need 5% of your own funds, but after that can be gift. And lastly, last lending strategy for sellers. As painful as it is, FHA is our friend. Like, I know the anti-flipping policy. You guys hate, the investors hate it. Because you can't, a bank-owned property, you can't put an FHA lender or FHA buyer on that property for 90 days. But what we're doing, in order to try to just stimulate that a little quicker, is we're ordering the appraisal, we're doing everything up front. And then on the 90th day, 91st day, we write up the contract and push it through. And as I just say, as painful as it is, FHA's is the easiest way to get financing. Lastly, for buyers, investors, and sellers, take advantage of your credit score. Without a question, the minimum credit score you can withstand right now is a 720, and that's the very minimum. Okay. The thing is there's a key difference between credit management versus credit repair. People think credit repair is, I have a 30-day late on my mortgage. How do I get that off? Well, credit management is using the rules of credit to your advantage. I mean, like, for instance, a lot of people don't realize that 80% of us, 80, so like this percentage of the room, has an error on their credit report. 25% of the room, so like this entire room here, has an error that is so bad that if you applied for credit today, any of you over here, you'd be denied because of that error. Okay? Credit is so easy to work. And I mean, like, if you have a buyer come to you and for whatever reason they don't have the credit score needed, don't worry. I mean, we've seen people get 100-point swings in their credit score in 30 days, and that is without getting any late payments off. If someone is legitimately late, we leave those on, but we use credit to your advantage. Okay? Lastly, on the Norris Group website, they will have a talking point outline of this speech. Because so if you need something, if you want to see exactly what I talked about, it's on the Norris Group website. Also on that website, there's a link to our website, and on there we have free downloads. I bet you didn't know this about credit. We have downloads, the 10 biggest credit mistakes, and lastly, the Home Loan Maximizer, and that's where we talk about, from a seller's and a buyer's standpoint, how to use the buy down to your advantage. Thank you very much.